Hello, I'm on a little bit early by accident. But here we are. Welcome. Hello, everyone. Hello. Hi. Can you let me know if you can hear me? I want to make sure that my microphone is working good. We'll spend a couple minutes saying hello, letting everybody come in. Hello. Yay, another live, another day, another now moment. Welcome in, everyone. I'm early. So I was sitting and calling in all the beans before I went live, and they got so excited. Like when I open up my space and my room to do a live of some sort, whether it's on my Patreon community or on YouTube, they always get really excited. They just rush into the space, almost like a premiere movie that they've been waiting for. And so they're just as giddy as we are when we get to kind of sit with them. They get so excited because in these moments when we come together, these portals open because there's so many of us, and we get to feel them a little bit more. So always, if they're watching this here live right now, or if you're on the replay, bring them in, invite them in, ask them to come in right now. Let them swarm you, let them circle all around you, call them in. And it doesn't matter if you know their names or not, your intention is energy. The words don't matter. It's the energetic intention always. So you just intend for these beautiful beings to come in, and they rush in. So I just want to let all of you know that there are so many beings around us right now as we are coming together live, honoring our human journey so that we can honor our human journey as well, because this human journey is quite a freaking journey. It's a miracle, really, what's happening. So they're here. I've got 4 minutes that I want to wait before I begin, just to let everybody come in. How are you guys doing? How's everyone feeling? I'll give you how I'm doing. I have felt like the first 12 days of January have been pretty quiet. Like if there's one word that I would use for it, it is quiet. Like just a massive slowing down, a lot of crying, emotional, yep. Sensitive in terms of just like feeling and hearing and seeing so much more. The more aware or conscious we become, the more intense it gets on an energetic level, on an emotional level, on a mental level. It just gets more. There's just more that we're recognizing, more that we're feeling, more that we're seeing, more that we're hearing. We don't realize how unconscious we were, how asleep we were, how drenched in amnesia we were, until we start waking up and like pulling the blinders off. And it's like, holy cow, it's bright. I had no idea that all of this was happening around me. And navigating that, opening up to the light, takes so many twists and turns, right? And part of the message today is going to be about navigating consciously this ascension in a way that is disconnected or detached from duality, and really understanding what that means. Because we're all on different levels of our awakening journey, and we judge ourselves. . And that's one of the biggest hindrances in allowing ourselves to gracefully shift, right? So I'm going to kind of really dissect duality and consciously being aware of our field, of our sovereignty, of what's happening in the quantum field. Like, let's break it down, right? Let's break it apart so that it's very simple to understand. It's not complex. But when you're first sort of stepping out into this quantum space and you're starting to feel more and hear more and experience more and like, what the hell, how it's overload. It can literally create a psychosis almost, right? You don't even know which way to look. Some days you feel stable, some days you don't. I mean, it's just chaos sometimes, right? So let's break it down. What's actually happening? Okay, 4 p.m., perfect timing. Before I start, I am going to plug my computer into the charger because it's not plugged in. So hold on. Okay, welcome everyone. So good to be with you guys. I love you all so much. It feels fabulous to be live. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, let's begin. Let's remember what we're doing here, shall we? Let's remember what we already know, but we forgot. Because remember, you know everything that I'm saying, and everything that I'm teaching, and everything that I'm bringing in it's all a remembrance. That's all it is. It's nothing new. It's nothing like, oh wow, that's mind blowing. She's so smart. She's so aligned. No. This is just what you know that you forgot. That's it. So always keep that in your frame of reference, right? Like, wait, she's telling me stuff that I already know. I just forgot, right? Okay, so here's what my guides want for us to really hone in on right now, okay? And again, because we're in 2020, it's all about clarity. It's all about starting to see even clearer what's happening, how we're being, what's our resonance, how duality plays a role. Let me dissect even duality even more. How am I interacting with people? What exactly is victimhood, right? How all these things that we sort of are learning and understanding, but let's go even deeper. Let's pull it apart even more. Okay, so first and foremost, energy universally is also consciousness. Okay, so consciousness is energy, energy is consciousness, and everything that we're experiencing in every now moment is consciousness. Emotion is consciousness, thought, consciousness, beliefs, consciousness, body, consciousness, plants, consciousness, everything. Every single thing in your external and internal world is consciousness, which means it's energy. And energy has a way in which it is, it bees, okay? Now, depending upon the speed energy moves, it spins. And depending upon the spin of energy, it's going to dictate what frequency it's at, and what frequency it's at will dictate the dimension. Got it? It's a natural process of energy. This isn't something to prove. This is just how energy is. And you already know this because you've been in the quantum, you've been in multiple dimensions, you've been in 17th dimensional fields, you've been in third dimensional fields, you remember this, okay? So we right now, as beings of light in this physical, dense, third dimensional form, are in a quantum field, which means that there are an infinite amount of dimensional fields that we can tap into if we choose and if we understand how. But because this form is vibrating in a frequency that is holding mostly third dimensional, perhaps for some of us, fourth dimensional frequency. So it's vibrating in a frequency that creates this form. Okay, so when we say that our form is anchored in a third dimension, it means that the body is going to dictate your dimensional field that you're in. Okay, now this is not saying that you can't tap into other dimensional fields, because you can. However, your form is going to stay and anchor you in the frequency and dimension that it's holding. Now, there's all kinds of consciousness going about and moving about through your channel in your form right now. Consciousness that's in a 7th dimensional frequency, consciousness that's in a 4th dimensional frequency, consciousness that may be in a 10th dimensional frequency. Who knows, right? It's all moving through the channel because you're standing in a quantum field. Do you understand? But your form is not anchored in that frequency yet. It's too dense, right? So when energy moves down into lower frequencies, it turns into form or matter. Okay, so when energy speeds up, the form that was in that lower frequency starts to spin into more light, crystalline, and then light, right? It's what's happening to our DNA. It's what's happening to our bodies. So when you look at anything in a body, look at it as consciousness, which is energy. And remember that if it's dense, if it's matter, if it's form, then it is between a 3rd and a 5th dimensional field. When you start going into a 5th to a 7th dimensional field, you start to become more light. Okay, now the body, the physical form, is going to tell you what dimensional field you're anchored in. Again, you're going to tap into all different consciousnesses. So you're going to experience the 5D consciousness, right? You're going to hold 5D consciousness in your form. You may actually be walking about being that 5D consciousness more and more. And then you're going to say, but why am I seeing everything I'm seeing that's so dense? Because your form is anchored in the 3rd dimension or the 4th dimension. Okay, there's still duality in the beginning of the 4D. Okay, great. Does everybody have that? Let's hope so. Okay, so here we are in forms. I'm just going to say that we're all 3D forms, even though a lot of us are in 4D forms. And we're looking out into that dimensional field, the 3D field and the beginning of the 4D field, right? And so all the consciousness that exists in that field is every single infinite possibility that you could ever possibly have while standing in that dimensional field. Any experience, any amount of money, any career, any job, any relationship, anything. A fight, making love, having children, winning the lottery, anything and everything, okay? And it's all consciousness. Now, in a 3rd dimensional field, there's duality. Why is there duality? Because the spectrum of consciousness, because the 3rd dimension is so slow that when energy starts to slow down, slows at its speed, it stretches. And when energy stretches, there becomes more of it to be experienced, which allows you to start to experience, for instance, let's say love starts to spin down into lower and lower frequencies. This love consciousness, this love energy literally kind of splits. It stretches. It starts to become other consciousnesses, right? Happiness, contentment. And then all of a sudden, that which was love moves into a dimensional field that can now stretch and be felt as the opposite, which is fear, anger, rage, right? When you start moving into higher frequencies, the energy starts to spin and speed up and condense, right? It condenses, becomes less of it. It moves back into more of a condensed frequency. And so there isn't duality in higher frequencies. You are experiencing love as love, maybe joy, maybe peace, but it doesn't get stretched into these lower frequencies of it, which is pain, anger, rage, sadness. All duality is the opportunity to experience a high frequency consciousness stretched into more of a consciousness to be experienced. And then you have polarities. That's why when you move into a 5D field and you're anchored in 5D or you're anchored in 6D, when people talk about the new Earth or they talk about when Earth was in 5D, there aren't all these other frequencies. And the basic reason for it is because those frequencies are spinning too low. They can't get into that higher frequency. That love frequency that stretches and creates these other dimensional or other experiences condense into that love and is only experienced as love. So here we are. Hopefully this makes sense, sort of. So now we're standing. Now we've got this dimensional field that's a third, perhaps the beginning of a fourth that we're anchored in. And now we're experiencing this large spectrum of consciousness, right? And remember that when you're in it, right? So you're standing in it and you're experiencing it, you're going to be experiencing it through the lens of duality, which means you're going to judge it. It's not your fault. It's not our fault that we judge. If you only felt sadness and that was the only emotion you felt, you wouldn't know that sadness was bad. The only reason that we know emotions don't feel good is because we have felt emotions that feel good, right? It's not our fault that we have judgment or attachment or suffering or any of that. None of this is our fault if you recognize that we are only doing what we designed ourselves to do by coming into this form and standing in this dimensional field. It just is. And so every consciousness, every thought, every belief, every emotion is a consciousness that is filtered through any external experience that you have into your channel and into your form. So you are standing in 3D, you walk around and you have millions of different experiences in every moment, right? And you may have an experience with a human at a grocery store. And that energetic exchange creates a consciousness. It creates an experience. An experience is a consciousness. That consciousness is filtered through the body. It's filtered through the channel. And it goes through the emotional and mental bodies. And those bodies, those energetic bodies, create the emotion and thoughts of that experience from that consciousness. And then you, as the human perspective, the ego personality, feel it. And then you start to say, that was a good experience. That was a bad experience. That was a fun experience. I hated that experience. We had a great talk. We had a horrible talk. We argued. We got along. We fell in love. We broke up, right? It's the form vibrating in the frequency that it is, in the dimensional field that it is, digesting consciousness in that field. That's the big perspective. The egoic personality perspective then does what it's designed to do. Dissect it. Judge it. Attach. Detach. Create victimhood. Create suffering. It's part of the third dimensional human experience. And when you start to remember this, because you knew this prior to coming in, that this is how it was going to work. When you start remembering this in this now moment as you're going about your day, that awareness, that simple awareness will allow you to begin to stop judging slowly, right? Because here's what we do as humans that are consciously ascending. So cute. What we do is we get upset if we are not having the experience we want ourselves to be experiencing. We get upset if our vibration isn't at the vibration we want it to be at. Here's what I want to remind all of you. Vibration doesn't flatline. It doesn't stay the same. Your vibration goes like this. I've said this multiple times. Your vibration in your body is doing this. It is impossible to hold a high vibration in every now moment right now for most humans. Impossible. Throw that idea or that belief out the window. Because why? Your body is anchoring, it's acclimating and assimilating the higher frequencies. It is still density, which means that it is most likely still in a third or fourth dimensional field, which means it's going to continue to experience dualistic consciousnesses. Does that make sense? Just hiding something. There we go. When you start realizing this and recognizing this, then you start to really recognize there's no victimhood. Nobody's doing anything to me. So let's go back. So your resonance is the vibration and frequency of your form. Your form's job is to move you into higher frequencies while you're standing in the field that you're standing in. Remember, I want you to visualize this, you guys. I want you to really visualize the third dimensional consciousness. All of it. People always say, why would we want to be experiencing this? It's not a desire like, oh, I want to see anger, rage, destruction, rape. I want to see all these things. It's not a conscious choice like that. It's just how the field works. The question of when you ask that question, why would we want to be experiencing that? That is a question that is based in a third dimensional ego. From a higher perspective, it's just consciousness doing consciousness in a third dimensional field. Now, we as third and fourth dimensional humans, we still get to be human. We have to be human because that's who we are in the form, as a form, right? We're light beings, but we are experiencing our reality as this human thing moving around. And so we're going to have all kinds of emotions as we navigate this. So when we see bad, horrible things in the external, in the third dimensional consciousness, which is just doing its job as being consciousness, it's just energy. We can have those we can have those emotions, anger, rage, sadness. It's okay. Because there will be a moment where your body will be vibrating at a frequency where you won't have that emotion anymore. It's not your job as the ego to try to tell your body to get out of the frequency that it's in so you don't feel those things. We have to allow ourselves to feel whatever it is we're feeling, even when you know that that's duality. Right? So when we start waking up and seeing everything from this bigger perspective, guess what? We're still human. We're still anchored in a 3 or 4D form. We're still standing in 3D consciousness. We're still experiencing duality. We're still experiencing victimhood and all these other things that we're slowly shifting out of as the form increases its vibration. But we, as the ego, don't get to dictate, I'm ready now. I don't want to feel this duality. I don't want to feel the pain. I don't want to feel the anger. I don't want to feel the sadness. That's what creates the suffering that we have, right? I know this is duality. How do I get out of duality? How do I find myself in neutrality? How do I find myself in neutrality? How do I find myself as the observer? How do I detach or become unattached to my experiences? First and foremost, you want to do it without judgment. You want to do it without forcing yourself. You do it by surrendering into everything that you're feeling. You surrender to everything you're feeling without judgment. All of it. And if you can't do that without judgment, then you just give yourself the judgment until there's a moment where you won't be feeling judgment. You're on the escalator. You're shifting vibrations, whether you believe that or not. You're all going to be moving into fields and frequencies and dimensions where you won't be experiencing what you're experiencing now. The easiest way through is to just be in your now. But what happens is that as we learn what's going on, we want to participate, right? Oh, I want to be in non-duality. I want to be an observer. I want to be detached. And then we get upset with ourselves and we judge it, right? because we're still in the duality of it, which is okay. So you want to recognize this field of consciousness just is. So when you start saying these questions like, well, why would these horrible things happen? Wait a second. Let me remember. This is literally a field of consciousness. This is how the quantum fields work. You can't necessarily see where the third dimension ends and the fourth dimension begins because it's all in one field. It's all in one now. It all can be tapped into in any now based on your own vibratory rate. So we are all consumed in this third dimensional bubble. If your body's anchored in a fourth dimensional field, your reality will be in a fourth dimensional field, but you'll still be seeing the third dimensional consciousness. You'll still be seeing third dimensional reality. You'll just be anchored into a little bit higher frequency. So the way in which you navigate the 3D field is going to be very different than a denser human form. For instance, there's two forms. One's vibrating and anchored in a 4D, one's vibrating and anchoring in 3D. Both forms are in the 3D consciousness, but this one is able to be anchored into a 4D consciousness, so it's got two fields that it's experiencing. Both of them get in a car and go to the grocery store. And let's say that the grocery store line, there's only one clerk and there's a huge line, and both humans they have an appointment that they have to get to. And the 3D, really dense 3D human is going to perhaps, that experience, that consciousness is going to be filtered in as anger, frustration, irritability, whatever that is, right? That's just the 3D body experiencing that consciousness. It's not its fault. That's the vibration of the body. The body's going to just consume it that way. The 4D, right, is going to perhaps consume it in a higher frequency. So it's going to be consumed, the consciousness is going to be moved into a higher frequency form. So the frequency is going to be experienced differently. So all of a sudden the human is going to be experiencing it more of like calm, relaxed, present moment, breathing. Everything is the way it is. It's all going to be okay. I'll get there when I get there. That kind of vibration, right? So what does that mean? It means that your body, we all know this, right? People talk about this all the time. They teach this all the time, that your vibration creates your reality, that you create your reality based on your vibration. The problem with that teaching is that humans then get upset with themselves and blame themselves for what is occurring in their reality, thinking that it's because they have created a vibration or frequency around their form or in their form that is bringing all this to them. Right? From a much higher perspective, that is true. The body, the vibration of the body, your resonance, your sovereign field is going to dictate how you digest the consciousness that you have. Two people, two forms, one in a different vibration than the other, the two forms vibrating differently, experiencing the same consciousness, okay, the same experience, but it's experienced, it's reacted to differently because the vibration is different in the human forms. Okay. Now, as this human starts to wake up, as this human starts to recognize, holy shit, look at how I just was, right? The human wants to be aware, okay, wow, I just did this, I just did that. That's interesting. I digested it in that way. That must mean that my body in this now moment must be in a lower vibration than it was 5 days ago when I was able to stand in that line and be in love and peace, right? How many times have you gone about your days and been like, why am I so irritable today? Why are all these things happening today when 3 days ago I was so at peace? Because your body is vibrating differently that day. When we stop trying to control the vibration of our bodies, we flow so much easier. So you get aware of, oh, wow, I don't need to put pressure on myself, that I need to raise my vibration, because you don't have control over that. You can try to raise it by doing exercises, and they work in that moment. But I've always said this, and the guides always say this. Your body is going to tell you where it's at. Your body is going to bring itself back to where it needs to be in order to continue to do the work that's on the earth plane to do. Right? So you want to let the body do its job And you want to be observant of how your body is vibrating and resonating in every now moment without getting upset, without judging, without. So for instance, you have an interaction with somebody, and for whatever reason, in that now moment, your body's vibrating a little bit lower. So you get more angry with that person. You get irritable. You might yell at that person. You might just hang up the phone on that person. Who knows? I don't think lots of you guys do that, but you may react and get triggered differently, right? As opposed to a day where your body's in a little bit higher vibration and you respond and are triggered and are not triggered, right? You don't have that same reaction. Your body is resonating and vibrating differently. Now, let's take this a little bit further, right? As you continue to move into your conscious ascended state and you start becoming aware of what's going on and you start to find yourself not judging, you find yourself not creating judgments and duality around it. It just is. If I get angry at somebody, it just is. What's next? What's coming next, right? What you start to recognize is that you're in this quantum field, your body's vibrating and resonating in this space. And then you say to yourself, okay, my body's having this vibration right now, and this is how I'm responding and resonating. Great. Perfect. Now, I want you all to practice this. I want you to consciously practice this, and then I want you to come back and tell me how it goes. When we try and move ourselves when we try, and I do this all the time, and this is why I want you to try it. When your body is in a lower vibration, it doesn't mean you're not ascending. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you better go and do something to raise your vibration. It just means that you're in a form that is very dense, that is moving through these dimensional fields and in this quantum field, and it's acclimating and assimilating higher frequencies of light within that form. And today, it's, for whatever reason, in a lower vibration as it's acclimating. It just is. And when you're in those lower vibrational fields sometimes resonating, you're going to feel those lower consciousness emotions, right? You're going to feel more of those lower spinning consciousnesses. And then when you are in those higher fields or vibrations, your body's really feeling good, right? It's higher frequency. Then you're going to be feeling these faster spinning consciousnesses. And that is going to dictate how you are in the external world. I dare you to try to control that. Meaning, when you are out and about and you're finding yourself in a lower frequency and you try to shift yourself by moving into a different state, by trying to feel higher frequency consciousnesses, I'm going to move into joy. I'm going to move into happiness. I want you to be honest. I want you to honestly do this. Your body is vibrating at a frequency for a reason. If you try to pull in this higher frequency, many times your body isn't going to absorb it. Your body's going to say, what are you doing? Why are you trying to make me feel these higher frequencies right now when I'm not in the mood, when I'm not vibrating there? And then guess what you do? You get upset because it's not working. When you're in a little bit of a higher frequency, it's much easier to pull in or to experience higher frequency consciousnesses. It's much easier because your body's like, oh yeah, I can take that right now. I can absorb that right now because I'm close to being in that frequency. But so many humans beat themselves up and get upset with themselves because they can't pull in peace, love, joy, happiness when they're in the lower frequencies, when their body's vibrating lower. There's a reason energetically. Your body's not there. It can't hold it yet. In that now moment, you may have been holding it for 6 weeks straight. Joy, peace, happiness, alignment, whatever. For whatever reason, we don't always know as human consciousness, as like third dimensional, fourth dimensional consciousness, we don't always know what's going on and why the body's doing what it's doing. But all of a sudden you find yourself in a lower frequency for a day or two. And it's like, oh yeah, I think I'm supposed to like, pull in these higher consciousnesses, these higher vibrating emotions. And then you try to do it and it doesn't necessarily work. And then you beat yourself up and you judge yourself and you get upset with yourself. The more challenging thing to do is to remember that you're a being of light in physical form, that you are not any of what you're experiencing. Here's the key to all of this, you guys. When you know that you are not that which you are experiencing at all, in any now, you don't care. Whatever. Now, when you start to realize, as we're breaking down what's going on, now you have an understanding of like, oh, this is what's going on. My body is just doing this energetically, and then it's going to do this energetically, and I'm in this dimensional field, and there's all these other dimensional fields, and I'm quantum. At the end of the day, in all simplicity, you're a being of light in whatever frequency you were existing in prior to dropping into form. You came down into this claustrophobic, dense structure, matter, form, and you are experiencing and digesting dense consciousness as your realities. And you're waking up to it in duality, which creates judgments and attachments and suffering and victimhood and everything else. And so, of course, we're going to get upset with ourselves because we're in that field. Instead of trying to get out of anything, step into the larger perspective and remember that you're a being of light experiencing all of this. And you're doing your best to navigate it. And yes, you have many different dimensional fields that you can tap into. Okay? The 4D, the 5D, the 6D, the 7D. But forcing and trying to tap into those consciousnesses when your body is at a vibration that may not be able to hold it is only going to create suffering. Why can't I feel that? Why can't I get that? Why can't I be that? Instead of complete surrendering into your now and learning from that now the simple 5D consciousnesses that we're all yearning to be in every now, which is in this now, with whatever I'm experiencing, whatever reaction I'm having based on how my body is resonating, whatever emotional response, thought, belief, paradigm, program, I am going to remember in that now that there is a being of light inside of this form, that this form is that third or fourth dimensional matter anchored into this field. I'm doing nothing wrong when I'm standing in this field. My role as an ascending human is that I feel and experience everything in my now without judgment as much as possible. Through the eyes of non-duality or neutrality, right? Which means that I'm just this being experiencing this, and you get to have all of it. What happens when you don't try to do anything anymore in your ascension? What happens when you stop trying to ascend? What happens when you stop trying to be the ascended person or human? You already are a being of light. You are a being of light. You're just now experiencing the shifting of consciousness. And no matter what you do, you're doing it. We're in a field of consciousness that creates these ways of being, even in the spiritual community, in the ascension path, where we're trying to do it. It's part of the consciousness, so it's really hard to kind of escape out of it, right? That's why allowing yourself to just be in whatever you're in is the easiest way through it. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. I'll say this again. You cannot hear this enough. You didn't do anything wrong, regardless of what you look back and see yourself doing. You have no choice. We have no choice. We're in this field, ascending into higher states of consciousness. We're in this dimensional field. Now, as you awake, you begin to create and remember that you have choice in every now. You have choice. You're not a victim and you're not numbed out and disassociated from what's happening. Having a choice means that you begin to see all of this from the eyes of the observer. Having a choice means that you begin to remember that you're a being of light and that nothing is happening to you. Having a choice means that you know there are other consciousnesses that you can tap into and start to be as you are moving through these shifts. Having a choice means that you get to remember that there are aspects of you in the quantum already existing in these other dimensional fields. Having a choice, being a creator being, does not hold duality. It doesn't hold judgment. Meaning, I don't like where I am. I'm a creator being. I'm going to move into something else because I don't like that. Recognize that that is duality. That is remaining in a 3D consciousness. That is remaining in ego and personality. Nothing wrong with it. Just see it for what it is. When you become the observer, you don't try to do anything. It's counterintuitive to the third dimensional human. That's why it's so challenging to just be the observer. If you think back to like all the teachings of the most enlightened sort of humans on the earth plane, it was always about detachment and observing. All of it. Be the observer, be the observer. When you're in a present moment state, you're detached from anything other than what is now. You're just observing you in now. So when you start breaking it down, right, and taking all these fancy big words and just breaking it down into energy and consciousness, it's easy. Let's say you're miserable in your job, okay? You're miserable in your job, or you're miserable in a relationship, or you're miserable for some other reason in your life right now. You're just not happy, okay? First of all, let's recognize that you have the gift to be able to know the difference because you're in a third dimensional field. That perspective takes you out of the victim, poor me, look at what I'm in, right? Wait a second. First, let's recognize that the only reason I know that I'm unhappy and uncomfortable is because I felt other experiences where I was happy. Okay, great. That I remember I'm in duality. I remember that I'm standing in all this consciousness. Okay, so no right or wrong, okay? But when your body starts to vibrate into higher frequencies, if you're in an experience that is in a lower frequency, a job you don't like, that job is a consciousness, it's an energy. That relationship is a consciousness, it's an energy. Whatever it is. So I want you to imagine if you're not happy in your life, okay? I want you to, what are you not happy about? What part of your life are you not happy about, right? And I want you to recognize that whatever that is an energy and a consciousness, and it's vibrating differently than where your form is. There's the dissonance. So what is dissonance? Dissonance is the opposite of resonance. What is resonance? Resonance is when your body, which is this form, which is always vibrating, it's always increasing its frequency, but it's going like this, right? It has an energetic field around it, and this energy caused by the vibration and frequency in your form is resonance. It's the resonance of you. Okay? It's vibrating and it holds a resonance. Dissonance is when this resonance taps up against another energy outside on the external, and it's like two magnets that are like, right? It doesn't feel good. It's like, oof, this doesn't resonate. Why? Because my resonance is in a different vibration than this resonance. Now, remember, You're in duality. So a lot of times you're going to say, this is a lower frequency. It's not as good because I'm in a higher frequency and I'm better. Just recognize, oh, look, that's duality. Oh, that's this third dimensional consciousness. Okay. But really, that job, that person, that's just the consciousness vibrating at its consciousness and its frequency. That's it. It's okay. I'm just not vibrating there anymore. So that first is what's occurring energetically. Okay, now that you know that, let's not beat ourselves up. Let's just break it down. Okay, my vibration is different than this person's vibration. Now, there are many different reasons that we stay, even though the resonance doesn't fit. And then what do? We beat ourselves up. Okay, so if you have the ability, we're all different. We're all having different experiences. There is no right or wrong, but let's start to get clear on what's occurring and what we have the ability to do. You're in a quantum field. You're vibrating. You're always moving into higher frequencies and you're tapping into the quantum space, which means that you can tap into these other higher dimensional frequencies. Your body's already moving because it's no longer resonating with wherever you are. So, great. Now, can I start to hold the aspect of me that's not in this anymore? What does that mean? This is breaking down sort of manifestation, right? Everyone always says you manifest by bringing yourself to the vibration of that which you're creating, right? So what you're doing is you're recognizing very simply that your body vibrates in a field, and you have to start to consciously understand how this works, which means that there is an aspect of you, because ascension happens and you are shifting and it's in a quantum space. Everything already is, was, and will be. It's all existing in this now. So there is another version of you and 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 so on and so on and so on and so on. And so what you get to start to remember and start to do is hold the version of you that's already out of whatever it is that's making you miserable without judgment. Then you get real present on where you are. So what we do a lot is when we don't like certain things, we go into this spiral of how much we don't like it over and over and over and over and over. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. Why am I here? Why am I here? Why am I here? I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I want out. I want out. I want out. I'm spiraling. This is why people talk about gratitude. Because what gratitude does in those moments where you are in experiences, where you are learning how to shift out of them, you see, here's a great example. Your body's telling you through its vibration, hey, this doesn't resonate anymore. The ego and personality is saying, holy shit, how do I get out of this? Oh shit. The body's telling you, hey, buddy, we're done. Can we move on? Can we move on now? We're done. And the ego and personality are saying, oh, wait a second. Oh shit, it's time to move on. How the fuck do I move on? Excuse my language. Oh my God, because we've got these limiting beliefs that have been created because of the field of consciousness we're in that have built up over time through all these other experiences. So we believe that we're not safe, that we're not capable, we don't deserve it, we're not going to be able to, all these things. We're going to be alone, we're not going to be loved, la, 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 la. You pull out the limiting beliefs you have. We all have them. They're part of being human. It's the gift of being here, right? Nothing wrong with the limiting beliefs. The more honest we can be and authentic we can be about everything, the easier this will be. Anyways, so here you are, right? Your body's resonating and telling you, time to move on, time to move on, time to move on. And then these limiting beliefs come in. And so you start spiraling. So if you can stand in the space that you're in without trying to get out of anything, so the trying and the pushing, right, will create resistance and it'll create suffering. So you get present with where you are and you find gratitude. You find gratitude. Somehow, somewhere, some way, you start pulling pieces of gratitude into your now. You start holding the aspect of you that's already in this new experience that you know yourself to be moving into. You're in slow motion though, right? You got to catch up to it. You start listening to the limiting beliefs that are just past experiences and consciousnesses that you've digested from an aspect of you that was vibrating a lower frequency. I'm going to say this again. I think this is really important. You are listening to limiting beliefs that were digested into your form from experiences in the external when your body was vibrating at a lower frequency. Remember, we've got two people standing in line. One person's vibrating a low 3D, one person's vibrating a 4D. They're both having the same experience, but because their bodies are vibrating differently, they're going to digest the consciousness differently. We've digested so much dense consciousness from external experiences that have created so many limiting beliefs that when we start shifting, when our body says, hey, we're in a higher frequency, this no longer resonates, the limiting beliefs come in and say, whoa, wait a second. We've been living this way. This is what we believe. This is what we think. This is what we know to be our truths. What are you doing? You have not been in this higher you have not been having a lot of experiences in this new higher frequency. So you don't have a lot of new beliefs to hold on to yet. This is a new resonance with new with new beliefs and new emotions and new all kinds of stuff, right? But it's new. So you don't necessarily know what to think yet, how to be. You just know that your resonance is telling you to get out of whatever situation that's creating the miserableness, the uncomfortableness, the sadness, the depression, the anger, the whatever it is. You are not going to be able to be shown the easy way through. Okay? You have to consciously be aware of the limiting beliefs that are based on prior other now moment experiences from the external that have been digested in your form when it was in a lower frequency. Those limiting beliefs are old. They're lower frequency than what your form is in now, and you are learning how to be in the higher frequency with different beliefs. And because your body does this, right, there will be days where you are going to believe those limiting beliefs. And there are going to be days where you're not going to believe those limiting beliefs and all of the in between, and you're going to think you're nuts. Welcome to moving into higher states of consciousness in a physical, dense form. There's no easy way. There's no straight line, and nobody has the playbook to do it. There's no playbook. No one's done it yet. I mean, there's people that are farther along than us. There's people that are behind us. We're writing the playbook. That's why we're here. We're writing the playbook of how to do this, which we already know how to do as the light being that's in the form. We know how to do it. We just completely forgot because we are in this very dense field. We're consumed by it as we are trying to peek our heads out of this dense field into the other fields. So when you're in these life situations, why am I in this? Why is this happening? Why are these things? Why am I still feeling this way, right? Your body is resonating. It's giving you the signal through your own energetic fields. So you're feeling, oh, I don't feel good. Oh, I don't feel resonant. Oh, I don't want to be here. Oh, this feels gross or whatever you're feeling. I don't even know. Gross isn't the word, but you know what I mean. That's your body vibrating. That's your body giving you the signals. Right? And then you have compassion for your human journey as you learn to navigate how to move through it. There's no way, there's no right way of doing it. There's no wrong way of doing it. Get clear on your limiting beliefs. The less judgment you can have, the easier you'll shift. The more you can observe your limiting beliefs, the faster you'll shift. So instead of trying to increase your vibration to shift into something, observe your limiting thoughts and notice that they are telling you who you are. Notice how it feels when you're observing those limiting thoughts that are not you, that are a past version of you that you experienced. That is going to assist you quicker than trying to shift yourself into something that you don't necessarily believe is there. We have to observe the now. We have to step out of and see with clear eyes what's occurring in the now without duality. We have to remember how those limiting beliefs got there. And when we start doing that, nobody's doing anything to us, right? So the relationship that you're in, it's not that person's fault. They're not doing anything to you, regardless of what the relationship is, regardless of how narcissistic that person may be, regardless of how abusive that person may be. It's in a contract. It's an agreement. Consciously or unconsciously, it's an agreement. And when you're ready, you will break it. And as you shift into higher states of consciousness, you are starting to recognize that you can't be in it anymore. Does this make sense? Break it all down. Break it down into little pieces with clarity. That's what 2020 is all about, seeing clearly. Oh, I'm in a 3D field. What exactly does that mean, though? Oh, I'm in a quantum field. Yeah, but what exactly does that mean? And how does that impact my now? Oh, my body's vibrating a certain frequency. Yeah, but what does that actually mean? Oh, I have limiting beliefs. Yeah, but what exactly does that mean? Let's get real clear on exactly what all of this means. Because the clearer we get, the easier this is, the more we literally let go of trying to do anything. I only teach what comes through me as guidance and what I do myself. Receiving guidance, receiving assistance, receiving activations, receiving clearings, receiving all these things are great. They're such a fabulous tool and gift. Keep doing them. They help us, right? There's nothing wrong with receiving clearings, receiving activations, anything that we do to try to assist us. Nothing wrong with it. But the most powerful gift that you can give yourself is to get as present as you can in your now, within the body, feeling your resonance and trusting that your physical body is directing all of this. That's what's so hilarious. The body's directing it, meaning the body is in charge of the frequency, not the ego and mind. The ego and mind is going to keep you safe. And then the higher self, this higher version of you, is going to come in and you're going to start to observe. So the observer part of you is this higher self version of you. It's inside of you. But I always like to see the higher self as like outside of me. It just makes me feel more of like I'm observing. And that's the role of the higher self. Hey, Lori, don't forget, you're none of that. I know you believed you have been for the last 44 years, but you're none of it. Can you believe that? No, I cannot. Why the freak would I have all this? Oh, well, you chose this because this. Look at the field of energy you're in. Look at the field of consciousness you're in. Look at the field of consciousness all these humans are walking in. And you'll notice when you engage with other humans that are holding a little bit of a higher frequency, it feels different, right? You're like, oh, that felt good. I liked being around that person. They were just in a little bit higher frequency. I don't judge it, meaning I don't make it right or wrong. I just allow the body to tell me what it feels like. And because I still am standing in duality, It's going to be filtered through duality, so it's going to feel better than something else. But if I have an interaction with the human and that interaction, I don't resonate, it's a dissonance. I'm like, ooh, that person is vibrating a lot lower. I don't say, oh, what's wrong with that human? Oh, they need to change. They should be moving into higher frequencies. Maybe I should talk to them and tell them how to start ascending or whatever, right? No. That body is doing just fine. That ego and personality is okay. It's having its experience. And if that human aspect decides to start to shift and wake up, then it will. It's not my job. Our jobs are not to try and move somebody into frequencies and vibrations because we think it's better for them. No way. Your job, so to speak, is to continue to consciously love yourself as much as you can, have compassion for your human journey, and keep your head down and keep moving courageously through it all, which means that when you get angry, you love yourself. When you get mad, you love yourself. When you're depressed, you try to love yourself. When you're in situations that you don't like, you try to have compassion for your human journey. You don't block it. You don't stop it. You try not to make it wrong. And you become the observer over and over and over and over. And you have to remind yourself over and over and over of being the observer. Oh, you just do it over and over and over and over and over. It's a constant reminder. All right. I think I'm done. I have no idea if any of that made sense. I don't even really remember all of what I said. But I hope that there were pieces in there that you can use. The whole purpose of this talk was to remind you of what you already know and to remind you to start to see everything even clearer. It's like we're breaking through barriers. We're learning like, oh, there's an ascension process. Oh, there's these dimensional fields. Oh, there's this quantum field. Oh, I'm a being of light in this body. All these things, right? And we just keep unpeeling, peeling back the layer, peeling back the layer, peeling back the layer. And then it's like, oh, let's get real simple here. Let's make it simple. Energy and consciousness. Nothing wrong with it. When you start to go about your day, you're like, oh, we're all in this field and this is how this field works. Okay, I'm going to have a good time around it. I'm going to be conscious. I'm going to watch the vibration that I'm in. I'm going to watch the resonance. I'm going to know that I have these higher consciousnesses to pull from if I want. I'm going to try to pull it in, see what happens when I try to pull it in. If I pull it in like love or gratitude or joy, and my body says, what the hell are you doing? We're not holding that right now. Well, I know that my body's not in that vibration yet today. And I allow it to be. I don't force it. Get in. I want to feel, when I say get in, it's the vibration within, right? I want to feel it. Where's the love? Why don't I feel love today? Why don't I feel love today? Where's my love? Stop. Your body's just not holding it right now. Let it be. You held it 3 days ago. Guess what? It's in you. Those vibrations, those frequencies, those consciousnesses are in you. That's why you felt them. And if there's a moment where you don't feel them, let that be okay. It doesn't mean you aren't love or joy or peace or any of it. It means that your body is holding a different frequency right now. And you're not in charge of trying to dictate it. If you felt love, if you felt joy, if you felt peace, guess what? That frequency and consciousness is in you. If you felt higher frequencies, guess what? You're holding higher frequencies. Remember, I said this in the very beginning. You are holding so many different frequencies in your body, but the majority of what your body is anchoring right now is lower frequency. So the body has to slowly catch up to the high frequencies that we continue to pull in through these massive portals that are opening for us and flooding light in. That's why the light floods in. all this high frequency light comes in, and then it's the body's job to say, whoa, holy cow, wait a second, I gotta now anchor this, which means I gotta hold it all the time. It takes a very long time for the body to anchor, right? So you're gonna feel the higher frequencies, you're gonna feel the lower frequencies. You don't know when you are, you don't know why you are. It's not your job to know when or why or how or what. It just is. Just let it be. If 2 days ago you were in a really high frequency, great. If today you're in a low frequency, great. You'll be in that higher frequency again. If you're in a lower frequency and you can't hold the higher frequencies, you can't pull in love throughout the day and joy, that's okay. Your body's just not having it. That's all right. The faster you allow yourself, the more you allow yourself to just have whatever you're having without attaching to it, meaning that you aren't it, the faster you'll move through the nows. It's in those moments where we are struggling, fighting, and trying to be something other than what we are in the now is when we spiral in that now. We're trying to control it. We put the brakes on and we try to create something that isn't being experienced. But this is what I want to experience. Okay, well, why are you trying to control anything? Let go of control. It's not easy. It doesn't always feel good. There are hundreds of now moments in every now moment day where you are not going to feel good necessarily. But what if you detached from it? And what if you allowed it to just be? It's just consciousness. It's just my body doing what it needs to do. I'm not it. It doesn't dictate my journey, meaning it doesn't dictate that I'm ascending faster or slower or right or wrong or doing it right, doing it bad. It just is. You already are such a high frequency being of light. You already are. Sorry, you guys, I didn't notice that. Trolls. Just can't get rid of them. Sorry, I don't know how long he was on. Anyways, last message before I go. Sorry. He's just being him, right? He's just being his vibration and frequency. He's playing in those other those lower consciousnesses, just is what it is. One last message. You already are the being of light. You already are the highest frequency you could possibly imagine. I mean, I don't know where all of you came from, right? Some of you came from a 6th dimension, 7th dimension, 12th dimension, 24th dimension, 38th dimension, 50th dimension, from source itself. Who knows, right? Directly into the form I'm talking about. Obviously, we all came from source at some other now moment. But in terms of coming directly into the body, you came from some other higher frequency. You already are a higher frequency. All you're doing is experiencing this shift. That's it. Just let yourself experience it. If you already know and remember that you are a higher dimensional, powerful, beautiful, amazing, courageous being of light, it is your truth. It's your absolute truth. Stuck in, caged in this form. Experiencing this roller coaster ride of shifting consciousness in a physical form. You may put your hands up instead of gripping the roller coaster, right? You don't need to grip the roller coaster. There's nothing to grip. Just let your hands up, throw your hands up in the air like you're going down a hill on the roller coaster and you're screaming like, ah, what the freak? Here we go, right? Because that's what this is all about. But we're in a 3D consciousness, we're in a 3D density or 4D density, and there's a hell of a lot to feel. It's a hell of a lot. Shift or shit, all of it. It's the same, both. It's not your fault that you're in duality. And naturally, when you shift into higher states of consciousness, you will begin to slowly feel yourself move out of duality. So whatever analogy works for you, let it work. But remember, you're not becoming anything that you aren't already, meaning that you can't get any more amazing than what you already are. It's impossible. You're just playing in this form that holds a channel. It holds the energy centers. It holds the ego and personality. It holds a higher self, holds an I am presence. And you're navigating this massively dense field full of massive amounts of duality. I mean, 1 minute you could feel rage, and the next, the most peaceful, joyful consciousness. That's the 3D field. There you go. Okay, we're done. 111. Yay! We're done. I would recommend, well, I'm not going to recommend anything, but I feel like this video may require going back and listening to a couple times. So you can choose what emotions. This is a good question, because it's a fine line between. So you can choose what emotions you want to be in and what you want to play in, right? And you can choose that. And I encourage that, like, absolutely. What I'm saying is, if you're choosing an emotion or a thought and it's not sticking, okay, the body isn't holding that vibration to hold it in that now. So just let it be, right? There's nothing wrong with choosing higher vibe frequencies of energy or emotions and thoughts and things like that. Nothing. But don't get attached to it, okay? Because what happens is that when you try to choose based on what you want to feel, which is all based on duality, okay, so when you try to choose higher vibed emotions or higher vibrational thoughts, you're dictating what feels good and what doesn't. Nothing wrong with it. Part of being a human. But if your body isn't holding that vibration in that now, it won't necessarily be able to hold that frequency of that emotion or that thought. And so you may get upset with yourself or judge yourself or think there's something wrong with yourself or wonder why, right? Or maybe you hold it for a certain amount of time and then 20 seconds later, you're off back in the vibration that your body is naturally holding. So there's nothing wrong with it, but your body's dictating everything. Always. It's just the natural way of the consciousness evolving. And the more we can just let it all be. See, the reason we want to choose those higher vibrational emotions, thoughts, and whatever is because it feels better. Duality. You already are the being of light. You already are the high frequency, right? Your human aspect doesn't want to feel whatever it is that you may be feeling in that now. But you're always shifting. And when you're in the quantum field, you get to choose. What do I want to feel? What do I want to experience? You get to choose it. Just don't be attached to it if your body just says, no, I'm not into that right now. Right? You want to stay detached from all of it. So if you wake up and you're in a bad mood, I never, ever, ever, ever try to change myself out of what I'm in. Ever. I don't do it. And so what I see in my now moment is I'll wake up maybe a little bit, let's see, I mean, I don't even know, like today was a very even-keeled day, but there have been times where I'll wake up in a little bit more of a irritable state, let's just say, and I allow that to be. I don't try to change myself out of it. I don't try to positive way think myself. I don't try to pull myself into higher states. I don't try to pull in anything. Why? Because I've done this long enough and I watch what happens. What happens? I get up. I honor my present moment state. I go take a shower. I'm in a present moment state. I do whatever I do in the shower. The next thing I know, 30 minutes later on my way to get a coffee, I'm in a completely different state because my body is just moving to frequencies. Sometimes I'll listen to a song and it really brings me into a different state, right? But I don't try to shift myself ever. And I'm just doing this and I'm allowing it. I honor and love the days where I am in a really high frequency and feeling so much love and expansion and like just crying in tears of joy for being here on the planet. And then there's days where it's just even keeled. And I don't try to shift myself back into the time where I was in that really high elated state because my body isn't there today. So I honor that. If I've done this many times. I have tried to shift myself and it doesn't feel good. It's like, what am I doing trying to shift myself? But why would I do that? It's dishonoring what I'm experiencing because I know I am not that which I'm experiencing. When you still think and believe that you are what you're experiencing, you're going to want to try to get out of it. There's nothing wrong with that. But the only reason we try to get out of something is because we actually believe that we are it, or we don't think it's good. We don't like experiencing it. It doesn't feel good. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just part of being in this human field, this human experiment. But when you recognize that nothing's bad, it all just is, and it moves very fast, you won't try to shift out of anything. You'll just allow your body to be like, here's where we are today. Here's where we are in this now. Here's where we are in this now. And then you're just going for the ride because you're always ascending. You are already ascended. You already are a higher frequency light being. You already are inside here right now. And you're holding so many different consciousnesses. So many higher frequency consciousnesses right now you're holding. And you're holding densities, denser consciousnesses. And your body's moving. But there's nothing wrong with choosing to choose to be in a higher frequency and a higher emotion. And if it works, great. It just doesn't work for me. Doesn't work for me. What does work is when I find gratitude, though. And gratitude isn't shifting out of anything. Gratitude is just saying, Lori, can you try to find a piece of gratitude in your complaining today? Yeah, I think I can. We're still human, you guys. We're very human. Let's not try to pretend that we're these enlightened beings that are just going to be in these really beautiful states all the time, because most of us aren't. And the more authentic and real we can be about that, the more we're going to just be who we are. There's nothing wrong with not being in this enlightened, high vibrational state all the time. I mean, come on, let's get real. Let's get authentic. Let's be honest. And the more we recognize that we are not that which we're experiencing, we will allow ourselves to just be like, holy shit, yesterday I was a raging bitch. Oh my God, so was I. Yeah, it's crazy how you feel that consciousness, right? Yep. Isn't that weird? Yeah, totally. My best friend and I do this all the time. What's your body resonating with today? Well, today it's irritable. I want to be alone. The next day. It's like one of the first things we ask each other every time we talk. We talk every day. What's your resonance today? Like, how are you feeling energetically today? Oh, today. And there's no judgment around it. It's like, oh, okay. You're probably going to do this, or whatever. And then it shifts throughout the day. And then we'll say, hey, what are you feeling like this afternoon? Oh my God, I'm completely different. Never do we say to each other, hey, why don't you try to move into your heart and just find love right now? It doesn't work for us. We're just kind of like, well, that's not where my body's feeling. Everybody has their own process and their own journey, and there's no right or wrong. I always just teach what I do. I never teach what I don't do, right? Or what I think we should be doing, right? I think we should be doing this. This is what everybody says we should be doing. So this is, I think, what we should be doing. No, I teach what I do. I teach what works. I teach authentically and honestly what I go through. And we're very, 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 very dense physical forms. Nothing wrong with it. And we are higher dimensional light beings. And therein lies the multidimensionality of all of it. Can you hold all of that? Can you hold the density of your form and the dense field of consciousness that you're experiencing every time you go outside? And can you hold this light being that you are? Merging it, integrating it. So when you walk outside and your body's vibrating a little bit lower one day, but you know you're a light being, so you know you're in the quantum, you know you can access these other consciousnesses that are in these higher fields. You know that you already have because you've felt them before. They're in your physical form. They're moving about. So you could play around and say, I'm going to choose to pull in one of these. What does it feel like? Oh, that's not going to stay very long. Okay, well, I tried. Great. That's it. It's practice. You're just playing. You're observing and watching yourself do this. I'm in a really angry mood today or irritable mood today, right? Can I pull in joy, right? Okay, let me try. I'm going to pull in joy, right? And then you try to feel joy. It's like, yeah, I can feel joy for this one brief moment. That feels good. Then you get in your car and off you go. And what do you feel again? Irritable, right? It's like, it's your body just being like, oh, this is what I'm resonating. And then you're like, oh, no, I'm going to pull in joy. Okay, pull in joy. Consciously create, consciously bring that frequency of joy in. Okay, I'm feeling joy right now. I'm feeling joy. Okay, great. And then you become a little bit unconscious, which means you're not in the present moment state and you're doing your thing. And then what happens? You get irritable again, right? Because your body's vibrating at a different frequency than the joy consciousness. Nothing wrong with that, but you can keep pulling it in. It's great. But just know that in every present moment now, if your body's not holding that vibration of joy, you're not going to be able to force it to. And you just get to experience what it's having. So you're a quantum being and you're a creator, so you can pull in anything, but it's all energy. It's all consciousness. So if it doesn't stay very long, honor that. Don't force anything. Or do whatever, who cares, right? It's our own unique journey anyways. All right, I'm going to go now. 122. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking and talking and talking. All right, you guys, I love you. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you got some nuggets, what resonated great, what didn't resonate great. I'm so grateful for you all, for this community. I'm glad I came on live. I haven't been on live lately. It's been a couple weeks, I think. The end of December I came on. So I guess that's it. I love you guys. I will see you whenever I see you next. Another live or a video I pop up. Be gentle with yourselves. Honor your human journey. You remember how to do this. You know how to do this. You're a light being beyond anything else. You're a light being in form. And you're not that which you're experiencing, and you're learning how to do it all. You're remembering how to do it all. Okay, I love you guys. I'll see you next time.